To the inhabitants of the town of Woodstock in the county of Grafton in the state of New Hampshire, qualified to vote in town and state affairs, you are hereby notified that the annual town meeting will be held as follows. The first session of the annual meeting was held from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The second session of the annual meeting where we discuss warrant articles and vote on them. We started the meeting today, and we need to recall our rules here, please. All cell phones, please turn them off. If you hear mine go off, I'm sorry, I just don't have it with me so, right now. You know, one of the things that I've always appreciated is that when we have these meetings, we come in as friends and neighbors. And I always like it when the meeting is over, that we feel the same way. Yeah. All right. So that is I will not allow personal attacks or inappropriate language. If you wish to speak, you must stand and tell me your name, because really I am getting very old for this job and things just don't come automatically anymore. Only registered voters may speak and vote. We have some guests here who will not be speaking except in if I vote them. Anyone not a registered voter wishing to address an issue may do so only with the permission of the moderator. But of course, you won't be saying aye or nay. You don't have a voice to speak with in this meeting. The initial presentations on articles, we'll say we're trying to limit discussions. Most of it won't even apply to this, to about 2 minutes. But we may limit you to 3 minutes, including a warning, somebody shouting at you. You have 1 minute left. But if I think you're interesting enough, I'll let you keep talking. All right. So, each article needs a motion and a second in order to discuss it. Only one amendment to a motion will be allowed on the floor at any one time. If anybody wants to vote to amend an article, we have to discuss that amendment and then vote on it. And then if we have any other amendments, we do the same process. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen. You must submit all amendments will be submitted in writing to the moderator. Fortunately, I could still read. The subject of the original article must be addressed in the amendment, and it cannot be a negative comment. Voter cards. Will you hold up your voter cards if you received one? Is there any registered voter who does not have a voting card? Who does not have a voting card? All right, thank you. This is, I'm headed for hearing aids, and when I ask for I votes, you know, I may not hear all of them. And so we'll have to do it that way. And motions for reconsiderations of articles must be made immediately after the vote is announced on the article. The moderator's rules can be challenged or overruled by a majority of voters, but I have no idea why you would want to do that. And state statutes do govern some legal procedures that are not listed here. I'm going to take a moment of personal time. I want to go back a year. This has been worrying me all year from last year's meeting. And I have last year's report. Last year was dedicated to Bill Mellett, and I don't remember making mention of the fact that Bill had served as fire chief, public works administrator, and so many other capacities. And he's almost family to me and friend. So I just wanted to say we remember him in doing that. And the second part of this meeting, that what I want to take into account from last year's meeting was that we had a page here dedicated to Dean Roth, who is here tonight. He was awarded the Boston Post-Cane on his 96th birthday as the oldest citizen in the town of Woodstock. Fortunately, Dean and his wife Doris are still with us, and I asked him to be here tonight. Dean, if you'd like to... Well, thank you for permitting me to do that. I feel much better now that I've taken amends for something I did a year ago. Maybe I'll sleep tonight. Today, we made a motion to choose the town officers. And we opened the polls at 10 a.m. and we closed them at 6 p.m. And it took us a couple of minutes over to finish them. So we had 144 voters who voted today. For town meeting, that's a little less than our average, but we got people elected. So for selectmen, for 3 years, Cheryl Reardon received 139 votes, and there were no write-ins against Cheryl. Okay, wow. I guess you didn't count my ballot. Huh?
Someone's always going to take a shot.
Town clerk, Judy Lynn Welch, received 140 votes, and 4 people did not vote. Cheryl's written count was 139 votes, with 5 people not voting. For moderator, we elected this guy, Ken Chapman, with 137 votes. 4 votes were write-ins for others, and 3 people chose not to vote at all. Thank you for your great wisdom. Supervisors of the checklist for 4 years. Faith Desjardins received 137 votes. And then supervisors of the checklist, Lee Freeman received 134 votes. Fire chief for 1 year, John McKay received 137. Library trustee, Judy Boyle, 139 votes. Trustee of the trust funds, Marcella Schamberger, received, we only had write-in votes, there were no candidates. Marcella Schamberger received 22 votes, other write-in votes were 5. I cannot say if she is elected because she has to agree to serve. So, cemetery trustee Barbara Avey was elected with 139 votes. Budget committee, 2 seats were open. Marcella Schamberger and Faith Desjardins won their elections. Planning board, vote for 2 seats. Igor Billy received 79 votes. Catherine Cordero received 68 votes. Jerry Mazzarandino received 67 votes. So the 2 top voting there, Igor Billy and Catherine Cordero. So floodplain board of adjustment. Again, there were no one running. a couple of people received 1, 2, or 3 votes, so that'll have to be discussed elsewhere. Floodplain Board of Adjustment, Christian DeRocher was elected with 123 votes. Article 2 passed with a yes vote of 122 votes. So I declare everybody whose name I just announced were elected. Okay, we're now ready to move to the articles that Article 2 was the 4th floodplain ordinance. And we just said that. Now, Article 3, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the Budget Committee recommended sum of $4,770,370 for the operating budget. This amount will not include any articles voted separately. The Selectmen and Budget Committee have agreed to recommend this appropriation. I hear a motion to accept Article 3. Jerry Nazarendino, who is second there, please. Jerry Stringham, I'm sorry. Jack got Jerry's on my mind. That's how it was. Who seconded? Way back in the back, please identify yourself. Okay, Ken, I couldn't see you. You're behind the head. So there you go. Thank you. Any discussion on this operating ballot? Okay, well, we have budget hearings and budget meetings all year, so it's certainly you can discuss it with the people then. Hearing
I
no.
have a question.
All right, please stand.
It's Bob Matheson.
Bob,
Just for us people who really don't know what.
Yeah.
Stuff, but how come we're putting a budget across and then we're adding all these articles to fund capital reserve? Capital reserve is not in the budget. How come we're not funding like all these capital, last year especially, there were numerous capital reserve contributions as articles. And how come we don't put that in the budget?
You do, so it has to be separated out from the operating budget when you're voting as warrant articles. But if you look at your overall budget on the MS 737 in the back, it is incorporated into your total operating budget at the bottom.
Thank you.
any other questions? Yes, please stand. Okay, that's good.
I got 2 questions. First of all, floodplain management. Why was that put in the voting as opposed to the?
Well, I'll let you ask that, but you should ask that at Article 2. All right. So
Just a question about why, because there's no, I didn't even know it was just.
that was required.
Because I believe, Joe, it's considered a zoning ordinance, and once the selectmen received and made their resolution, it had to come on the ballot for a vote.
Okay. And the other thing is the town budgeted for the cost of this, because it's me, it's going to be cost to the town because of this ordinance.
There's no cost, is Kristen could, I'm sorry, I think Kristen would be the one to speak.
All right, are you Christian DeRocher?
Kristen DeRocher, yes.
Okay. Please talk to me, but make sure you're heard.
The floodplain ordinance has been in place for a long time within the town of Woodstock. We got requests from the planning board in particular, got requests from FEMA to provide some updates to the ordinance regarding how things were discussed. The elevational data, for instance, in like the units, not, there was no change to the floodplain based on these changes. On February 8th of this year, FEMA enacted new flood insurance rate maps. Now, FEMA does this in consultation with towns. You're allowed to give input. I reviewed all the preliminary ones and looked through to make sure they captured anything from town, any culverts that they were missing or that type of thing. I didn't see anything. All this is public and anybody can get involved if they want. I love it and be happy to teach you. And so what we did with this vote on the second warrant was to accept the new floodplain as you see it, the plan, the ordinance. All it does is says that we are in compliance with the federal flood plans. So
There's no additional properties that
If-
have been listed as floodplain that weren't before?
there are some, I am one, for instance, but if I had voted no on this, I would still be in a floodplain. Because the government, FEMA, United States government, put me in that category. Now, what allowing it to do by accepting Article 2 was to say that we are still part of the community rating system for FEMA. We get discounted insurance rates, we get help should there be a flood for the town, et cetera. If we had said no, we would lose all those benefits. So we weren't voting about which houses are in floodplains. We were just voting about whether we want to continue to be involved in the federal program.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Yes, please.
Tony Garabasio, on the operating budget, it
Yes,
says that the town will vote to raise the budget, and then it gives an amount,
well, it's not necessarily voting to increase it,
okay?
but it may increase.
Because I wanna know about if it is increasing, am I gonna pay?
Well, I think you have a report there in your hand that tells you what the budget was last year and what it is this year.
If you go to the back page, at the back of the budget,
Well, the black, middle pages in the report.
page 13 and 14 on the page, it will tell you what your last year's budget was the prior year
Okay,
versus what this year's is, and the
okay, but
difference.
if there is a difference, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's
So
up
where
about
does that money
3%.
come from? to
It's
make it the
it's about 3% or 100 and
3%, $92,653, which equates to about 33 cents per thousand on your tax bill.
So the taxes will go up to appropriate this.
Potentially, yep.
Potentially.
Thank you.
The state sets the rate. Any other questions, comments?
yeah, I put the town board potentially, because we don't know what ours is.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the budget committee recommended sum of $4,770,370 for the operating budget. This amount does not include any articles voted separately. If you wish to pass this budget, please hold your card up. Okay, please, if you are opposed to Article 3, please hold your card up. I see some opposition, one opposition. I declare that operating 3 has, the operating budget, Article 3 has been adopted.
Mr. Moderator, my name is Tim Cheesebro. There's a very important article, number 24, about voting machines that has been placed at the end of the warrant article. I feel that there's enough interest in this to move it forward at this time rather than wait until a few hours from now.
Can I get a second to that?
Second.
Seconded, all right. It's been moved and seconded that we move Article 24 to discussion now. Yes,
Can we go back? I'd like to make a motion to restrict reconsideration on Article 3.
okay. Yeah, okay. I'll come back to that, I'm sorry. We have another one on the floor.
Okay.
Do it after we get this thing continued. Article 24, discontinuance of all electronic voting devices. Shall the following provisions pertaining to elections be adopted? All voting shall be by paper ballot, and all ballots shall be hand counted only, rather than by use of optical scanning or any other types of programmable electronic counting service devices. This will constitute a return to hand counting ballots and the immediate discontinuance of all electronic voting machines and electronic devices authorized for use by trial in RSA 65640 shall this article be passed, it shall be enacted by the town of Woodstock immediately. It is not recommended by the selectmen or the budget committee. Um, So it's been moved and seconded, but who would like to make the motion to accept this as I've just read it? All right, I'm sorry, say your name.
Can you repeat that again? I want to make sure I heard you correctly.
All right. Essentially, the language of this wants to discontinue all electronic counters. If you were here voting today, you saw a new version of these things. We can talk about that later. This article would make that, we would not be able to use machines to help count. We would all be, we're counting every piece of paper by hand. All papers are already paper ballots in the state of New Hampshire, and has been for many years. As time has passed by, towns have gone to machines to help in the counting, to speed the process, and to increase the accuracy of the process, I think. So does that help you?
Yeah, I make a motion for a private vote.
I'm
I'll
sorry?
make a motion for a private vote. Unless everybody-
Well, right now we have to get to the discussion. I'll talk to you in a bit.
Thank you.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Who would like to, if you wish to keep this discussion going, will you please show me your voting cards? Yes, just so we can get started in the discussion. Oh, we have a motion. All right, thank you for pulling me back from my abyss here. All right, so this motion was made from the floor by petition, put in the warrant. And was there somebody here who would like to speak for this article?
Wait, we need a motion,
to start
to start the discussion.
We don't have a second.
Oh, no, we didn't have, oh, we have a motion.
Jim and Kristen made a motion to move it to, we spoke about to start.
Oh, okay, I'm getting
Actual to
confused.
start.
So did you make the motion back in the back?
I'll second that.
Okay, no, you're the first. Okay,
I'll second it.
all right.
Jackie will second.
Jackie Wilson is seconded. Okay, now we can talk. Is there anybody who wishes to speak for this motion? Yes, please identify yourself.
Hi, my name's Diane Carter. I live on Spring Street. And, I'm one that is concerned about machines. I don't like to call them voting machines, but we have as a tabulator. That's, I think it's correct. Because it doesn't create the vote, you do. And you, all of us. And it's precious, very precious to me as well as I believe all of it. I understand we're in the 21st century, I know that we're supposed to be moving forward and fast and everything else. But I don't necessarily trust all the innovation that has come about. There's more complication for it, seems like. Voting seems to take longer to come up with a final decision. There's distrust. It's not in the people. It's in a machine that's programmed by somebody to do something. And I'm not an ET person. I mean, I'm not a techie. So I wouldn't even be able to know, even if I could take the cover off and look at it, see what's in there. That's still a little SIM card or a little memory card. I wouldn't know. They don't know unless it's that one right there that we have that's behind all those screws and little secure thing. And we had an IT person that was independent that would know and to be able to run that. And we know that they all can be changed and added to and hacked. And it's been proven it has been done, not saying all the time.
Who's it been proven by, please?
Pardon?
You said it's been proven that it can be hacked. Who said that? What's the source for you?
Well, there's all kinds of sources that have been working on this for quite a few years, okay?
Just give us one.
We the people, the vote, they have, actually, there was one done right in New Hampshire, the Wyndham investigation on the 2020, the election. And they came in knowing that we're New Hampshire, we're free to die, and we're independent, and we're also the beginning and the primary, or the first primary. And they went in there with, just to justify it and to say, you know, this is New Hampshire. And they were shocked, and there was, and there's been, what's the name of the council that they went in front of? The executive council, they went to them with all their papers. These two women, one's Democrat, one's Republican, they're good friends. And they went there to prove how good it was. And they were shocked that there is manipulation and that can go on.
Do you
I don't know
know,
all the specifications, and I'm not gonna go through all that,
right, I just want to know, do you know
because
what kind of voting machine it was?
it was the one like Lincoln, I think. But there are all kinds of nonprofit videos and documentation. So there have been people that have worked on it. They're not just blind to it. I have trust in the people. I have trust in them having a ballot. I have trust in them counting it. I trust them. I can see them. I can see my vote. I can see them working on it. There's a little discrepancy, or they can handle it right there most of the time because they're part of the community and they just know. But when it goes into a machine and then that is scanned and dropped down, and then there's all these little cards and things, and I saw it all, and I appreciate you all having us over, and we were there for 4 hours, maybe better, to look it all over. But to me, transparency is something I can see. It says it's an open source. It's an open is key because it can be open. With Wi-Fi and the technology today, you know it's not. Nothing is your security. I don't know what your security is. Are you bonded? Are you, like, and all this sort of stuff, but all the technical stuff. But what I'm saying is that we're a small community. There's a lot of communities still in New Hampshire that do paper ballots. And so when they're done and they count and they look at it, they're happy with it. Probably we are. But there's gonna be some communities that aren't. So we're paying for a glorified calculator where people used to hand count, and they liked it. There's a lot of them. So, thank you.
Do we,
You could pay
Diana,
them, and that money would stay within the community. But my thing is that I don't trust the machines. I also don't like the fact that they were never voted on. We're having a discussion, which is good. This is what I wanted to talk about this. It's really, really, really getting to a real fine point for our country that we need to know and be able to trust the system. And every day it gets chipped away just a little bit more. So I'm saying that I am a vote yes, go back to paper ballots and count.
okay, well, I remember all votes in New Hampshire are on paper ballots already. We're just talking about the way they're
I'm
counted.
talking about the process, yes.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
And I just want you to know, my vote is my consent. It's also what yours is. And
All right, I've taken more than your time right now. Is there anybody else who would like to speak for the thing? Yes, Nancy.
You know I would.
Well, you were sitting quietly there. I wasn't sure.
That's hard. I know Jeff is looking down saying, Kim, you do not know what you got yourself into. You asked if I was going to talk. I have questioned voting machines for the past many decades, ever since they were used.
And yes, I'm that old for sure, but so I went to the two sessions, the local sessions. And, so I could just make sure, you know, what I thought about the machine. And I walked away there totally trusting all these people, totally, like Diane said, I trust our people. The machine, not so much, because my concerns are that Voting Works, Ben, I met Ben the first day over there, hi Ben, and he, very nice man, but Voting Works was only started in 2019, so I'm like, they haven't even worked out the kinks, they haven't been around that long. And another concern that even is more concerning to me is that it's only used in one state, in Mississippi, in 16 jurisdictions. I did have that verified by Ben because I researched it, like the nerd I am, and he verified, yes, that's true. So I went on to research, as nerds do, and I found out that Mississippi has 1,748 voting jurisdictions. And I'm like, so I'm not really good at math, but that's only 1/100th of their voting jurisdictions that they're using this machine, and it's only in one state. So my concern is that Woodstock, why is Woodstock willing to trust, you know, the organization with so little accountability? And they do have an audit system that's used in like 6 different states, but we're not using the audit system. We're just using, you know, the voting tabulator. The other question is, so this means, I think, that is New Hampshire, Woodstock, New Hampshire, going to be part of the testing ground of this machine for the 24, you know, election? That concerns me as well, because I want my vote counted just like all of us do. So the other thing is I have gone to the state as far as executive council and listened to experts that are data processors, auditors, computer programmers. They have no financial tie to any voting machines. They just know these machines, they're geeks. And I listened to them, saw the machines, they showed us how they can be manipulated, saw the data spreads and everything of how, you know, the big elections, not Woodstocks, but Woodstocks is a part of that. And so I just walked away like, oh, wait a minute, this is not comforting. And so they were saying that any machine, I'm not saying this machine, but any machine has the capability of being manipulated. Voters voting switch, the machine's program, all these things. And our machine uses polling cards, you know, like a credit card, and a USB. The experts say that, you know, do you know who's programming them? And the machine's being built by different companies. So there's a lot of questions. And that's the only reason I'm bringing it up, because I'm not an IT expert either. I just have lots of questions.
All right, well, that's, you kind of need to,
You don't want to hear me talking?
I won't mind, but let's give some other people a chance to
Okay,
talk.
well, can I put a couple more? I only have like 2 more things.
Okay,
So hand counting Woodstock, we're a small state, we're a small town. There are countries that hand count. Some of them have shorter ballots, I know, but I've researched and other countries don't. And they have their results that night, the next day. It's because of the chain of command. In a hand counting election, the chain of command stays within these 4 walls, wherever the election's going on. And so you have systems where you check and double check, it never leaves until it's on a piece of paper that's documented, signed by all those that need to sign it. Yeah, you know, the townspeople, selectmen, and the monitor. And then it goes by hand with the state trooper to the thing, but there's no machine involved. It's totally transparent. We can sit here and watch it. We see the paper and it's going to the state. With the machine, the chain of command, the experts have said, it's very difficult to find the chain of command, because once it goes into the text system, then there's all these loopholes and, you know, what do they call, all different kinds of unaccountable facets, and it's almost impossible to find. So that just makes me question it more. So all I'm saying is, I don't feel real secure, and so the integrity of our vote. Like I said, we totally trust you people. It's the machines, and maybe not being a tech person, that's one of the things. But I think that we need transparency in the machines. The bottom line is, there's no real true transparency. With voting, hand counting, it's in this building, people we trust, and there's complete transparency. So I'm just saying, I trust the Woodstock election team and the poll workers, and I don't trust the machines. So I'm gonna vote yes on Article 24.
Okay.
Thank you for that
Thank
little
you.
extra time.
Anybody else wish to speak for the articles? Way in the back, tell me who you are. John Partridge.
Yeah, the only thing I worry about is big business and financial institutions spend billions of dollars a year trying to secure their systems, and they can't stop people from getting it. So it makes you wonder who can get into what. I mean, those are the people that care the most about securing things, including the federal government getting free. So there is chance to get into anything.
Right, thank you, John. Yes, back on.
Tony Garbacho, just for the sake of everybody sleeping well, did we do any kind of a redundancy? Both, use that machine, back it up with hand counting.
We need to have, I want to hear people who want this machine to be thrown out to talk right this minute. So I will come back to that.
All right.
Sue Murphy?
Susan Murphy, yes. I've been a resident of this town for 36 years. And I'd like my voice to be heard. So I'm gonna do a little skit for you, okay? He said the voting machines are safe, secure, not hackable. They're not connected to the internet. Someone else said, oh yes, they are hackable. Hand counting is transparent. Really, you trust those people to be able to count? So who do you believe? The person you like, the person in charge, your neighbor, your aunt, your uncle, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, or whomever you choose with no real knowledge of how it works. How do you really know who's telling the truth? I asked, what is the chain of command to the end result? What happens to the poll work card? Where does it go? And on what electronic device is it read? Do I trust those people? Definition, I'm going to ask you all to become informed voters, to discern and make a clear decision on what you want. And discern is to come to know, recognize, decide, or to understand something that's not clear. What do I do when something's not clear? I Google it. But then I have to look at who wrote this? Who wrote this? And what are their credentials? What are their intentions? Is someone paying them to write that? As Joe Friday and Bill Gannon said, just the facts. Anyway, these voting machines came into place in 1979. They were brought in on a trial basis. We're 45 years later, still on a trial basis. And the people of New Hampshire have never voted on it. So it's just one of these things. We're going to push this in, you don't have a say. At present time, it's my understanding that the decision of the voting machines is in the hands of our elected selectmen. I'm asking that our selectmen and all of my fellow townspeople watch the documentaries that are available at this time about the voting machines. I am appealing to your intellect, to your intelligence, to your own thinking. That is your choice. So you can watch them or you don't have to watch them. It's your choice. We still have that right in this country, but I see it slipping away, quite honestly. Hacking, there's 2 documentaries about the voting machines. One is called Hacking Democracy, the irrefutable evidence on what happened in Wyndham, New Hampshire during the 2020 election. The other one is Let My People Go. It is now on YouTube. It's put together by Professor David K. Clements. And I'm asking my fellow citizens to watch these, okay? The first one, Hacking Democracy, is 56 minutes long. The other one is 2 hours long. I asked somebody to watch this, that's 2 hours. Really, is 2 hours too much for your freedom? For your freedom and your rights as an American citizen? There's also other documentaries on YouTube on many other subjects. May I also suggest, why don't you watch Hitler's Rise to Power and see how he manipulated millions. Hitler, Germany's fatal attraction. I want to say thank you to you all for listening to me. I enjoy having the freedom of speech. Please vote yes on Article 24, but as we all know, it comes down to our selectmen. I have made, I wasn't sure, I might have been a little overzealous here, but I made 300 copies of the URLs and the names of the documentaries that I'd like to hand out and have people really take the time and know what's out there. Be your own person. Think for yourself. Albert Einstein said, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. So let's show our intelligence and be honest with yourselves. If you don't like me and you don't want to vote, that's your choice. But if you do and you're hearing something, maybe you look into it. But I'm just asking and I say thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, is there anybody else who wishes to speak for the acceptance of Article 24? All right, let's talk. Tom Sabern, I saw your hand first.
I don't know a lot either way, so it's kind of hard to hear all the pros and not have kind of some back and forth on this. So I wrote down a few things. One, are these machines connected to Wi-Fi or any kind of internet at the time of voting? Do you want to answer them in like one at a time? Or?
What? Okay. Yeah, we do have an expert here tonight too, so.
Well, I will, is it okay for Ben to chime in on these then? About the machines?
Let's wait for a minute, but the answer to your question is no.
No.
So where I'm going with this is that's the answer I needed. So we voted tonight to do all of our stuff. We put it on paper. We sent it to the machine. We already have the results an hour later, but we're saying we're going to lose those results because they're going out on the internet, which is not connected. So I'm just having a hard time grasping the,
Judy can explain how, once we get the totals from the machines and the hand counts, Judy and I spend an extra hour here filling out reports in paper to send to the state. The reports are picked up by the state police and transferred by the state police to the Secretary of State's office.
It's very key that the ballots never leave us unless a recount is requested, and the memory cards never leave us, and the machine never leaves us.
Right. Okay,
So
that's perfect.
Okay, keep going.
So I'd also like some data on errors hand counting versus an optical eye sensor, because like in my business, we rely on technology so that people are safer. That's just, how we do things. And like I said, I'm not for or against because I'm just trying to learn. But, I'd like to have some real data besides sounds like one town had an issue that they keep referring to, which I'm sure maybe there is. But where's the data showing where a hand count is more human error versus an optical eye machine? If you can say, oh, we've done 20 different pieces from these different places and the optical eye data is worse than the hand count, then I'm going to be buying into this. But if they say that, if it's not, that's pretty boring.
Judy has some comments from past experience here. So we've had a recount that was requested in an election involving 3 towns. And Judy,
So I believe it was in 2022. We had a very tight state representative race. And a recount was called by one of the candidates. And all of our ballots were picked up. They were sent to by the Secretary of State's office. They were sent down to the Secretary of State's office. And not to put anybody on the spot, but I think there was a 3 ballot error, and I believe it came out of the Olean count town. In that district.
and if you want to know who was involved, one is the person next to you across the aisle. And the other is two rows back in the center.
I can tell you Woodstock's ballots were spot on.
But our ballots were spot on, yeah.
So is there data, I mean, I
just want to get other people, keep these questions in mind, and when we could set people up forward here. Okay, yes, please. Jay?
Might just make it a little bit easier if we just kind of capsulize, at least in some way. But my name is Jay Palomino, and I am the assistant moderator. I'm a relative newcomer to the election process here because anybody is when you're dealing with Ken's tenure. But I became involved primarily because I wanted to learn more about what I believe is the absolute finest grassroots form of democracy in our country, town meeting and town elections. And I feel that I have to respond to this petition and the subsequent mailing that was sent to me. Is this too is another example of grassroots democracy, which I absolutely fully respect. Unfortunately, in this case, I believe that it's a petition based on misleading and in some cases untrue claims, unfortunately, by people who may not necessarily understand our local voting process. And also, unfortunately, it's a group we found with statewide and national backing with an agenda which simply does not apply here in the town of Woodstock. Maybe it's best if I respond to this flyer directly. You know, when I get something that said you should be outraged, it's a bit strong. I'm not outraged, but I'm certainly disappointed that the petitioners did not seem to fully understand the ramifications of their warrant article. The next sentence reads, voting machines are flawed and hackable. It's simply not true. The voting machines we use in our Woodstock elections are neither flawed nor hackable. They have been tirelessly tested against hand counting and have proven to be more accurate. We can just ask some of the petitioners who witnessed our training on the machines and also attended our testing session where they hand counted 8 ballots during training and 50 ballots during testing. In both cases, their efforts took twice as long and their results were flawed and inaccurate. The voting machine was 100% accurate in both training and testing. Also, the voting machines we use are not hackable as they have no internet capabilities. There's no way to transmit voting data electronically, so all final reports that we heard are handwritten and transported to Concord by the state police. The voting equipment itself is locked up in the town safe immediately after the election. And yes, you deserve an election without the possibility of manipulation. However, the only way to minimize the risk of manipulation is to have a system of checks and balances where there is the ability to compare the results of both a voting machine to ensure accuracy and hand-counted votes for those ballots which voters have requested to be hand-counted or have been rejected by the machine because of voter error. I can guarantee you that if hand counters were not able to come up with accurate results for 8 or 5 or 50 ballots, the accuracy risk in hand counting 400 ballots on election day will absolutely increase incrementally. It's not a risk we want to take, as I'm sure all of us agree that we want fully transparent and accurate voting results. The only way to ensure that is with a voting machine that proved to be 100% accurate in training and testing, supervised by individuals who complement that accuracy by verifying by hand any ballots that were rejected by the machine due to voter inaccuracies. The flyer also reads that We all deserve to have our vote counted in an environment where we can all observe the entire process and track results. I wholeheartedly agree with that. But what they are proposing, eliminating voting machines and just relying on hand counting, will unfortunately increase the risk of those results being inaccurate. There's much more risk of inaccuracies by strictly hand counting every ballot. We need our voting machine to ensure accuracy and minimize human error. I understand that some folks are uncomfortable with technology and others just don't trust the government. But here in Woodstock, the technology that is used is necessary to ensure accuracy. And I, for one, have absolutely no trust issues with the people we've elected to govern our town and oversee and protect our election process. Yes, our children's future depends on us, and thankfully, we have the ability to ensure that we do everything we can to make that future brighter by voting no on this article and keeping our election process as transparent and accurate as possible. Thank you.
These were not campaign speeches. So, I've asked a guest to be here with us tonight. In 2022, the town of Woodstock was asked to test kind of a first generation model of a vote counting machine. We were one of 3 towns chosen to test that machine. One test failed because of smudges on the scanner. And the other 2 towns, us and Ashland, I believe, were happy with the result. We went down the next day. The state was going to do a hand count, recount, and I will admit that our count was off by 1 vote. I caused that mistake. I want you to know that. We had a ballot that jammed, and when I unjammed it, I didn't pay attention to the screens, which would have told me that this machine, this vote was counted, but it's jammed. And so, but I didn't see that message. So I swung it through again. And so that made our town in Woodstock off by 1 vote. That was the primary, and I believe there was 630 something ballots counted then. And the people that we dealt with started asking us what we should do, what we would like to see. If you came to vote today, you saw this new machine. Everything that we had made suggestion to, and I like to think we're the only ones who made these suggestions, they put in that machine. And so it's a jewel. I've asked Ben Adida. He is the president and founder of Voting Works. You can look up voting.works on the internet. That gives you his biography. His company is a not-for-profit company. And to us, the selling point was anybody can go online and see the software. Now, I did that, I looked at it, but it was like me reading Italian. I just couldn't do it. But Ben, you've heard some of these comments, would you say so? Ben brought his son Leo, who wanted to see how democracy works on a small town basis.
How do I face you?
Well, you're supposedly talking to me, but I give you permission to turn your head,
Okay. My name is Ben. This is my son Leo. We're driving here after school because I wanted to see democracy in action. We're from the Boston area, so not that long a drive, not too bad. I'm really honored to be here. This is really what democracy is all about, right? People coming together and talking about it. I want to. Trouble with the moderator.
My phone is telling me to take my pills.
You trust it, right? You trust your phone.
So, I just want to say a few things, because I think it's really important to come together and have this discussion. And ultimately, it's your decision, town of Woodstock, obviously not my decision, right? We make these voting machines. I just want to tell you a few things about how we make them and why I think they're worthy of your trust. And then, of course, it's your call as to whether you do or not. So we are a younger voting machine company, or been around only for 5 years. Just to be clear about the numbers, we're in 5 counties in Mississippi. There are 89 counties in Mississippi, so we're in between 5 and 10% of the states in Mississippi. And we were just approved by the Ballot Law Commission in New Hampshire. Today, our machines were in 5 towns, including Woodstock, and as far as I know, they're still closing in some towns. Everything went well. My phone is off, so I don't know everything, but I'm pretty sure everything went well. So, first of all, these machines are not connected to the internet, don't have the capability of being connected to the internet. There's no Wi-Fi internet, there's no Bluetooth antennas. That's not just us saying it, that is verified by a federally accredited lab, as per the rules set forth by the Ballot Law Commission and the Secretary of State. So they have tested our machines and issued a report about this. So, and that report is public. You can go read it. There are only 2 federally accredited testing labs in the US that test voting machines. And this one is called SLI. They're out of Colorado. They've been doing this for 20 years. Actually more, I think 20 years. What else did they test? They do an accuracy test on the machine. They put enough ballots in there to look at 10 million bubbles. And the machine has to give a perfect result on 10 million bubbles. They run this test, we don't. And then they report it. It is actually the highest standard you can test to. We are, the state of New Hampshire has chosen to require standards that are the latest federal standard. It's VVSG 2.0, if you want to look at it. And that is that high standard of 10 million bubbles with not a single error. The previous standard allowed 1 error every 500,000 bubbles. The new standard allows 0. So no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth checked by the lab, accuracy to 10 million bubbles. What else? Security, really important on security. A lot of the concerns that people have, which have been raised, I think, by some of the folks here, is what about that USB stick where the digital data about the ballots is stored? The latest security standard requires that data to be digitally signed by the machine, so that when it's transferred, I don't know where it was today, but when it's transferred from the tabulator to the laptop that prints, that does the final adjudication, if anyone gets their hands on that USB stick and opens up the files and changes anything, that gets detected because the digital signature will then not check. So there's no way to swap in the USB stick or edit the data or anything like that. Again, it's not just me saying it, that's the lab that tested this and verified this and attested to it. All of that. So also our source code. Ken mentioned that it's all Italian to him, which is totally reasonable, but important to understand, all of our source code is public on our website. Every line of code that goes into that machine. Not everybody does that, by the way. I like to do their own a little bit on this, that we're the only ones who do this. You may not be able to read that source code, but the point is, maybe you know someone who does, and you can ask them to look at it. And you don't have to believe me, you don't have to believe the lab. Right? In addition, the testing lab is responsible for taking that source code and making sure that it's the right program that's been installed on the machine. So there's a process by which you can check the integrity of what's installed on that machine so that it matches that source code. Again, not just me saying it, verified by the lab. I can obviously talk about this for hours, and I think you have a lot of other warrant articles to talk about.
Yeah.
But I'll end with one more thing, just because I've been in election geek for more than 20 years. The folks that came and did the Wyndham analysis, these are people I know, they're colleagues from the election security community that I've been a part of for almost 25 years now. What happened in Wyndham was entirely an operational mistake related to the folding of the ballots. It's the kind of stuff that happens in complicated times in a pandemic, you know, that's what happens. But the really important thing to know about, you were asking about error rates. I think there was a question about error rates from this gentleman. The best studies we have on this are studies that come out from Harvard, a professor named Ivan Salver, who's done a number of studies on how elections are run in the US. He's maybe the country's top expert on the processes of voting. And I'm going to give you numbers that are going to be hard to believe, but here they are. In his broad studies, he's found that on average, tabulators, electronic tabulators, make mistakes up to 0.5%. If like the name is circled instead of the bubble filled in, there's these edge cases where they don't tabulate properly. Up to 0.5%. Hand count, because of the length of our ballots, many contests on ballots, because it's usually done late at night after a long day. People are tired. It's not an issue of trust. You trust these folks, of course. They're tired and they're making mistakes. It's somewhere between 5 and 7% is the error rate of these accounts. That's not me. That's the best studies we have on this. And that sounds shockingly high, but that just gives you a sense of how hard it is to do this. The intuition I like to give people is if I take a ream of paper, photocopier paper, right, 500 sheets, and I remove a few, and I say, count them. And you need to get the right number the first time, and you can't check it against anything else to see if you got the right number. Okay, great. Now do that 20 times. And you get the right number every single time, 20 times. You get a sense of how hard that can actually be. It's not a question of trust. It's not a question of whether you can trust your peer citizens. Because of course, they're your friends, they're your neighbors, like everybody here cares about democracy. It's just people are really bad at this process of manual counting. It's just not what we're built to do as humans, right? This repetitive counting process. So, Mr. Moderator, thank you for
Thank
the
you.
time.
Does anybody have a specific question? Sue Murphy?
I'm questioning the chain of command, Ben.
Yeah.
Of the USB when that's put into the laptop. The laptop's connected to the internet.
It is not.
It is not, okay. Well, putting the Wi-Fi connection aside, it also can still be reprogrammed. So what's to stop saying column B is Susan Murphy and column C is Nancy Ingalls? Can those be switched? Can that be reprogrammed?
So if you were somehow to succeed and get past all the security to reprogram that, the way that the ballot is encoded, there's security code on the ballot. If you change anything about the definition, that security code changes and the scanner will reject it. So if you change the
Could you
definition.
explain that to me again?
Absolutely, of course. So there's an election definition that says, the ballot definition, if you will, it says these are the candidates in this order. Think of all that information. in
Right,
one
I
document.
understand that.
If you change that document, somehow you manage to, which would be hard to do because of all the security measures that I talked about, but if you could do it, that would change this little code that's on the ballot at the bottom of the ballot.
The ballot, the paper ballot?
Yeah, the QR code.
So it changes that code, but the ballot's not in the machine anymore.
What I
I'm
mean
not
is that,
following
what I
that.
mean is that that code matches to the ballot definition.
So
if you
it
change
doesn't,
the ballot definition on the scanner, it will reject this ballot and say, that's not what I was programmed to do.
but at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You have that code.
Yeah.
You have that ballot set up that way.
Yeah.
You take your information, you put it into the laptop,
In this
or
laptop.
Chromebook, whatever,
Yeah.
okay? And then you reprogram it.
Oh.
Well, you're not putting any more ballots in, so how is it gonna reject them?
Yeah, so no, that.
So what's to stop that?
there's no-
That's my question.
Yeah, the individual records, so I think your question is, after you've scanned all the ballots to the machine,
Uh-huh,
the data is written to the USB stick. You take the USB stick to the laptop for the final, first of all, the machine will right away print the tablet, right?
Oh, well, I've seen that, I've
Right.
watched these, documents.
So the only.
And I've watched them, and.
But that comes
So,
out.
what I mean is that, first of all,
Interrupt.
no, it's okay. First of all, the tabulator prints that tally report right away. The only thing that happens on the laptop afterwards is the adjudication of writings. So you've got a checkpoint right when the tabulator is done, before you take any USB stick out. It's under seal, the seal is numbered, you can't take a USB stick out without breaking that seal. So you get that checkpoint right away.
I don't understand, you can't take the USBs.
It's under a physical seal, like there's a flap on the machine with a physical seal that prevents you from accessing the USB stick until you break that physical seal.
Right.
So
I get
when-
that.
And that has a number on it that's logged by all the human processes that we trust.
Right. Mhm.
So at the end of the day, right when the polls closed, which was what, 6 p.m. today, right? At 6 p.m. today, when they put the card in the machine and said, close the polls, it printed a tally report right away out of before there was any movement of the USB stick. And that's a
It
checkpoint.
came out of the machine itself.
Of course.
Oh, okay, I got
So the
you.
tabulator.
I got it.
Sorry, yes, I wasn't.
Thank you.
Then you can USB stick over to the laptop,
Mhm.
so you can adjudicate the write-ins, you can look at the ballots on the screen and, this is Alice, this is Bob, etc. And then you print the second tally report. You can compare those two, and you can make sure that the only changes are the write-ins, right? That There
Okay.
shouldn't be any other changes.
Okay,
And even if after all of that, those checkpoints, you were to modify data on the laptop and change the order of candidates, for example, that would not, the laptop would then refuse to count those digital records because those digital records have the same code in them. So there would be a mismatch, and it would refuse to say, I can't count this
so what's
digital
on the
record
USB?
against this definition.
I have another question. So what's on the USB stick is a picture of the ballot.
A picture of the ballot and give the interpretation of it, yes.
Okay,
So-
okay.
Okay, thank you,
That
Ben.
makes
You
sense
need
very
to talk a
clear.
little louder, please.
Oh, of course.
when you're talking.
Yeah, and-
Does anybody else have, Leo has to go to school tomorrow.
He doesn't seem concerned.
He's not concerned. All right. So does anybody else have a question? Yes. Move the question. I just want to make sure everybody understands the issues that we, as up here, we made the recommendation that the selectmen followed after doing 2 years of follow-up with this company. And we recommended that they we purchase Voting Works V-scan system. I forget the actual name of the scanner and the other thing. VX-scan, okay. So, sounds like Leo named them. All right. No, all right. And so, I just wanted to have a full understanding of what the team of volunteers who get paid a little stipend for being here today. If we keep talking, I get paid a little more. And so it's, if you have any more questions for Ben, yes, Jerry.
Actually, I might have 1 or 2 minutes to share my perspective, if it's okay. I'm Jerry Stringham, so I've been part of many elections and as a candidate. And very close elections, because they're extraordinarily difficult going on. Always keeps it close. So, and I have a great deal of confidence in the machines, but I don't depend on that confidence because I've seen what the recount process looks like. Because they keep all the written ballots or the filled-in ballots, they seal them up and put them in. If the election's close, like the first time Bonnie and I ran, it was 15 votes out of almost a couple of thousand votes. Any machine or hand count could be off by that much. When it's that close, you can ask for a recount. And they actually do a hand recount. The final recount is done by hand, but it's not done the same way you do it here. First of all, the Secretary of State trains somebody specifically to do, you know, what's gonna be an intense, it's not gonna be 139 to nothing like Cheryl's here. Boy, go check it out. So they have one person specifically trained to be able to look at the ballot, somebody else professional watching, and then at least one person from each campaign sitting there as each ballot comes across and you look at it. And say, this is, you know, Bonnie, this is Jerry, you know, and I even have a picture of one here where somebody put down filled in all the circles on one side of the ballot. And then, and that was the Democrat, they put a little X over my name, and then filled out the oval for Bonnie. So there was a little fill in on each one. They probably said, I'm gonna vote Democrat, and you said, I don't wanna vote for that Stringham guy, I gotta vote for Bonnie. So changed it, and that was a challenge ballot that they ended up looking at and had to adjudicate. You know, the confidence isn't just the machines and just the people here, but that process of watching all 2,000 ballots be hand done and hand counted at the state level, which is the way every state level, you know, regional election, senator, I see Aaron Hennessy here, she's going that way too, I'm sure. But that's the way every one of those is done. So, you know, the next year, you know, when I lost by 50, you know, I knew that the initial counts were close enough that there was no way that was going to be made up. And, you know, I have tremendous confidence in the elections, and having so much at stake and then being so closely involved each step of it. I think the machines will help, you know, help people work. So I'm all for it. Thanks.
Thank you, Jerry. And yes, who is that? Marcus.
Mark Selling, I had the pleasure of jumping in on Voting Works training session for the town of Woodstock. I didn't know anything about the voting process. I attended the meeting with Ben, Judy, Carrie Hoover was there, Jay, Ken, some other people from the other side. It was a really formal, very nice. You understood, like, I do PLCs, I automate equipment. I set up equipment so you can start stuff from your phone that you're starting up in Hawaii. And I know a little bit about electronics, and I'm just listening to Ben and the process that the town took to evaluate the equipment. I don't think it's a willy-nilly decision. And actually, I've got a couple things here. Tom Sabern, to your point, we scanned 8 ballots on the first day and hand counted 1 ballot. My cohort and I had to hand count the ballots, and it took us 20 minutes to count correctly the 9 ballots. So we're on a rate of 27 an hour. And they were wrong, as Jay said. The next week, we did the testing for the town, 50 ballots, and we were asked to do the count.
The 50 ballots were actually counted by the machine 4 times, because it was put in any way that you can put the ballot into the machine. So we had counted 200 ballots, the equivalent of 200 ballots on the machine. And then I handed Marcus and Nancy 50 ballots and said—
I wasn't trying to say the other person.
Okay.
I didn't say. So we did those 50 ballots, 200 count, and feeding through the machine took 4.5 minutes, just one at a time, casual, we're having conversation. It took us 1 hour and 35 minutes to count the paper count, and we had so many undervote and overvote mistakes. It took us another 35 minutes to correct all that, so it took us 2 hours to get through the same process that the machine had to correct. We had to go back to the machine to get our mistakes correct. As I went through both the training and the test session,
I can't see where hand counting is the right thing to do for the town of Woodstock. The accuracy. I seem to think that people who get the vote tallies a day or two later were complaining about the votes coming in too late. You want your vote counts in right away, and you want them accurate. And the voting works machine is, we've had this machine for a couple of years now. You've had election counting machines for 8 years. Why is it an issue now? It's the right thing to do for the town of Woodstock.
Thank you, Mark. No applause, Williams, no applause. Yes, back over here, Jim Young, you haven't spoken.
I just have a question for you. When you get these hand counted ballots, how do you get the total? You put it in the calculator? How do you do it in your head? You gotta add them up somehow to get 500 or 600 votes.
I can count to 50.
Okay. That was 1, 2, 3, 4. How do you put it into a calculator?
I had a counter tell me the number of.
I think he's trying to connect.
How
They
did you,
sorted and stacked by race. So every race, they sorted and stacked, and they counted the number of ballots. And then added it to a tally sheet, then they totaled the tally sheet. And then they
okay,
went on to the next race, every year.
all right, Sue Murphy?
I just wanted to say, we came here as friends, we're supposed to leave as friends. You could say her name. I don't think the whole discussion was about the timeliness as much as it is the transparency and the hackability. And I think that's what the question is about, rather than the timeliness. And you're right, I mean, I'm a teacher, I correct papers, and you know, it takes me a long time. Because I look at every single problem and how they did it, instead of just looking at the answer. So, you know, I do make a few mistakes here and there. We have 144 voters here today. Yeah, it takes time and it's energy, and there's other people that I'm sure would volunteer, or maybe not, but that's what I'm saying. We're talking about the transparency and the chain of command and the programmability. And I do want to say thank you to the town people, the people that did investigate this and looked into this. It's also the transparency has been brought up from the documentaries I've watched about the corruption in the 2020 election. I'm just asking you to look at it, okay? You don't have to believe them. But that's all I'm saying. Thank
All
you.
right, Judy?
So I just have a question. On those documentaries, are they state of New Hampshire related or are they nationwide related? Are they focused on?
One of them is called Hacking Democracy, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And I have one for everyone. So, you can have that, just watch it. And the other one is called Let My People Go. It's a full documentary, and it's by Professor David K. Clements. He's from New Mexico. It's very, very interesting.
So can I just ask, do you have any, there's 25 towns that received this petition,
There's
correct?
what?
There's 25 towns that received this petition, correct?
Right.
Are there any statistics based on New Hampshire? You know, did you request recounts, like 3 recounts from each town that had these machines to prove that they were inaccurate, to prove that they weren't working?
Not on this particular machine.
No, any of them, I'm talking.
Yes,
So
down in Wyndham, New Hampshire. And
that's one, but
and
on
that's what the
these
hacking.
towns, Wyndham wasn't part of the 25. So
Well, it just,
is Wyndham on our list of the 25 that went for the petition?
I am not sure about that. But
So
in,
I'm just wondering if there's data that shows that the machines in New Hampshire, or at the very least the 25 that just got this petition, had submitted inaccurate counts. Were there recounts? Were the recounts
I do not
requested
know.
from? I know from Woodstock there wasn't.
I do not know.
So
I
I'm
really
just looking
don't.
for those statistics.
I just, I have not seen those.
So I
know
think
any
the
of
only fair thing to do,
I
I could
can't
ask
hear.
the voters of, Woodstock.
Okay,
The fair thing to do is to have the statistics.
all right. The crowd is getting restless. I need to have somebody else speak.
Okay.
All right. Helen.
Please.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that we vote on Article 24. I'll read it again. If I
Ken,
can-
do you have to move and second it for Judy?
What?
People who are-
We don't have the sign for
Who's
that.
the second?
Marcus, thank you.
All right, yeah, that's how we were able to discuss it.
All in favor?
No, I'm sorry, we have to read it again so you know what you're voting for. Article 24, discontinuance of all electronic voting devices. Shall the following provisions pertaining to elections be adopted? All voting shall be by paper ballot, and all ballots shall be hand counted only, rather than by use of optical scanning or any other types of programmable electronic counting devices. This shall constitute a return to hand counting ballots and the immediate discontinuance of all electronic voting machines and electronic devices authorized for use by trial in RSA 65640. Shall this article be passed, it shall be enacted by the town of Woodstock immediately. If you wish to vote yes, yes means you want to get rid of voting machines. A no vote means we can use voting machines. So I have not received a petition for a secret ballot, so this will be by card. All those in favor of discontinuing electronic voting machines, please vote now, stand, or vote, just stand and vote, please. So, okay. Okay, I count 4. All right, all those who wish, what, I got him. Yeah, John Clark. Oh, John, did you vote?
No.
Okay. Now, Article 24, if you vote no, that means you want to keep the voting machines. So if you wish to keep the voting machines, please stand up and hold up your card. Thank you. Article 24, the motion is defeated. Yes. Trying to talk to me.
I'd like to move to restrict consideration of warrant articles.
Okay, and we've had a motion. Do you have a second for that? Lee down here, I saw first. And it's been moved and seconded that we restrict reconsideration of Article 24 at tonight's meeting. What, pardon? Yeah, okay. All right, so let me get this vote taken care of. All right, all those in favor of restricting reconsideration and rediscussion of this vote, please raise your cards. Okay, if you oppose that and want to keep talking, if you want to keep talking, we will, all right, if you want to keep talking, raise your card now. Okay, Ben, thank you very much for being here tonight. You and Leo.
Thank you, everybody.
You go out, you can go out that door.
Yes. All right.
Thank you. Yes,
Can I have a motion to restrict reconsideration on Article 3?
all right, do I hear, okay, Tom Saber? It's been moved and seconded that we restrict reconsideration of Article 3, which was the budget article from this, for this meeting. So if you're in favor of restricting reconsideration on Article 3, please signify by saying your card. Okay, if you're opposed to and want to talk more later, okay, I see none, unanimous vote. Article 4, Water Department Restricted Balance Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be placed in the Water Department Capital Reserve Fund by authorizing the withdrawal of $100,000 from the Water Department Restricted Fund balance as of December 31st, 2023, recommended by the Selectmen and the Budget Committee. May I hear a motion to accept Article 4 as I've read it? Sherry Hoover and Jim Cheeseborough. Any discussions, questions? Hearing none, it has been moved and seconded that we accept Article 4 as I've read it, transferring $100,000 from restricted fund balances to cash. So if you're in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. Thank you. Article 5, to establish an emergency management capital reserve. To see if the town will vote to establish an emergency management capital reserve fund under the provision of RSA 35(1) for purposes of emergency management capital purchases, and to raise and appropriate $2,000 to be placed in said fund, and further to designate the selectmen as agents to expend, recommended by the Selectmen and the Budget Committee. Can I hear a motion to accept Article 5 as I've read it? That is Faith Desjardins, okay. All right, any discussion, questions? Hearing none, will you vote to accept Article 5 as I've read it? Okay. If you're opposed, raise your card. Thank you. I miss saying the ayes and noes, so you can shout out. Article 6, to establish a computer. I declared that is okay. So does anybody want to make a motion to restrict reconsiderations of Articles 5 and 6? Judy does. Does anybody seconded by Cheeseborough? Jim? If you're in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Raise your card. If you don't want to do it, say no. Okay, that's a unanimous affirmative vote. Article 6, to establish a computer software capital reserve fund. To see if the town will vote to establish a computer software capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35(1) for purposes of upgrading current software and purchasing new software to include installation and programming, and to raise and appropriate $20,000 to be placed in said fund, and further to designate the selectmen as agents to expend, recommended by the Selectmen and the Budget Committee. I hear a motion to accept Article 6. Jerry Hoover, is that you? Yeah, okay. And Dottie Stoller is seconding. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, if you wish to accept Article 6 as I've read it, to put aside $20,000 for upgrading current software and new software. If you're in favor of that, please say aye and raise your card. If you're opposed, say no. That is a unanimous affirmative vote. Article 7, the Community Center. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be placed in the existing Community Care Capital Reserve Fund previously established. Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. May I hear a motion to accept Article 7? Kim, all right, I'm sorry, just brain. Okay, and seconded in the back, who are you? Ken again, Ken, the photographer. Not Ken the moderator. All right, is there any question, discussion about this? It's been moved and seconded that we accept, put $5,000 for our community center capital reserve fund. If you're in favor of doing that, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
May I hear a motion to restrict Article 6, reconsideration on Article 6 and Article 7? Jim Cheesebro, seconded by Susan, yeah. Took the time to stumble over that name. Okay, if you are in favor of restricting reconsideration of those two articles, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
If you're opposed, say no. That is unanimous vote. Article 8, revaluation, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be placed in the existing revaluation capital reserve fund previously established under the provisions of RSA 35(1) to meet our constitutional and statutory requirement that assessments are full and true, which revaluations must occur at least as often as every 5th year. Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this. I hear a motion to accept Article 8. Who's that back in the back?
Mark Nelson.
Okay, thank you. And seconded over here by Scott Holt. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that we put $25,000 in a revaluation capital reverse fund. If you're in favor of doing so, please signify aye and raise your card. If you oppose, say no and raise your card. It's a unanimous affirmative vote. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be placed in the existing paving capital reserve fund previously established. Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this. May I hear a motion to accept Article 9? Over here, Maureen Palomino and Peggy Wright. Any questions, discussions? So this means we're putting $20,000 into a paving capital reserve fund. So if you're in favor of that, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now I hear a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 8. Oh, if you're opposed, excuse me. If you're opposed, say no. Okay, Article 9 has passed unanimously. May I hear a motion to restrict reconsideration on Article 8 and 9? Sharon Holt and Sherry Hoover. If you wish to restrict reconsideration tonight, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if you're going to say no, I hear none. The vote passes unanimously. Article 10, highway block grant. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,452, which is the anticipated grant amount this year, to be placed in a highway block grant capital reserve fund previously established under the provisions of RSA 35(1) for the purpose of any maintenance, repair, and/or improvements to Class 5 roads in town. Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this. I hear a motion to accept Article 10. Mr. Lee and Mr. J. Palomino, Lee Freeman, J. Palomino. Just took me that long to come up with the last name. All right, any discussions? Yes, Sherry.
Can you please fill me in on what Class 5 roads are?
Who can explain that? Where's your husband, Judy? All right, what's the class 5 road?
Class 5 road to town maintained road.
All
All
of the
roads
town
that
roads.
we maintain in class 5, we don't maintain. Like private access road, except we don't maintain that. That's class 6.
And Route 3 is not a,
That's not us.
okay. And my road, 175? Not a, okay, good, all right. Any other questions? Are you asking a question, John, or are just scratching your name? Okay, all right. It's been moved and seconded to put $25,452 to be placed in a highway block grant capital reserve fund. If you're in favor of doing that, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Thank you. That is voted on unanimously. Article 11, town building maintenance. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $45,000 to be placed in the existing town building maintenance capital reserve fund previously established, recommended by Selectmen and Budget Committee. May I hear a motion to accept Article 11? Way in back. Tell me who you are. I can't.
Jeff Long.
Okay.
Jeff Long.
Oh, okay. You have a beard. Okay. And it's turning white. Okay. All right. Is there a second? Sharon Holt. All right. Discussion. Hearing none. To see Article 11 has been moved and seconded to see if we will put $45,000 into the existing town building maintenance capital reserve fund. If you are in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. And if you're opposed, say no. Article 11 is passed. I'll entertain a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 10 and 11. Somebody would like to make that? Mrs. Sabrin does that. And Doris Brock, excuse me. I can't do that. Okay. So, and you've always been Doris Brock to me. All right. So moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. If you're ready to vote to restrict reconsiderations on Article 10 and 11, please say aye. Aye. If you're opposed, say no. Article 12, Fire Department equipment. To see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate sum of $31,000 to be placed in the existing fire department equipment capital reserve fund previously established. Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this. I hear a motion to accept Article 12. Who in the back? I can't see your face.
Fred England.
Fred England, thank you, Fred. And right beside you, okay. Wow, you're getting older too, okay. All right. Is there any discussion about this other than Paul's age? All right, so moved and seconded that we want to put a sum of $31,000 into the existing fire department equipment capital reserve fund. If you approve that, please say aye. Aye. If you oppose, say no. And that's unanimous, a vote. Article 13, fire truck. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the existing fire truck capital reserve fund previously established, recommended by the Selectmen and Budget Committee. May I hear a motion to accept Article 13? Way in the back. Let me wait. John Partridge. I told you, the first ambulance I bought with the ambulance service was sold to us by John Partridge. That was many years ago. All right, seconded by Peggy Morais. All right, it's been moved. Discussions, questions? Hearing none, it's been moved and seconded. Do we put $50,000 into a fire truck capital reserve fund? If you're willing to do that, please say aye. Aye. If you oppose it, say no. That is a unanimous vote. May I hear a motion to restrict reconsiderations of Article 12 and 13? Lee Freeman, seconded by Tommy Saber. It's been moved and seconded to restrict reconsideration. If you're in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. If you're opposed, say no. The article, the vote passes. The articles are restricted. Article 14, Library Computer Equipment Expense, EXP Trust, I guess that means expense.
It's expendable.
Expendable Fund Trust, okay. To see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate sum of $2,000 to be placed in the existing library computer equipment expendable trust fund previously established. My Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this. May I hear a motion to accept Article 14?
Kristen DeRocher.
Christian DeRoche, thank you, Christian. And seconded by, I still haven't heard you.
Margaret Lavalley.
Oh, Margaret, okay, I knew that. So, I knew it is in the past, is not here in the present. It's too far back in my mind. It's been moved and seconded that we vote to put $2,000. If you wish to talk about it. Seeing nobody, are you ready to vote? It has been moved and seconded that we put $2,000 into the library computer equipment expendable trust fund. If you're willing to do that, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Unanimous vote. Article 15, Main Street revitalization. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be placed in the existing Main Street revitalization capital reserve fund previously established. The Selectmen of the Budget Committee recommend the appropriation. Now hear a motion to accept Article 15. Kim Pickering, seconded by, who are you next to Christie? Michelle Arulia. Thank you. All right, any questions, discussions? Hearing none, it has been moved and seconded that we put $5,000 into the Main Street Revitalization Capital Reserve Fund. If you're willing to do that, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Article 16, and that passes unanimously. Article 16, Solid Waste Facility Improvement. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the existing solid waste facility improvement capital reserve fund previously established. Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this. If you are willing, could I hear a motion to accept Article 16? Dottie Scholar and Sharon Holt. Dottie, yeah. All right, no questions, comments? Seeing none, we moved and seconded that the Solid Waste Facility Improvement Fund get another $10,000. If you're willing to do that, please signify by saying aye. Aye. If you're opposed, say no. I declare that the vote on Article 16 was unanimously affirmative. Article 17, Highway Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $65,000 to be placed in the existing Highway Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund previously established, recommended by the Selectmen and Budget Committee. May I hear a motion to accept Article 17? Who in the back? Sean Woods, and seconded by Peggy Rice. Any discussions? If you're willing to put $65,000 into the Highway Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are you waving good night or are you voting?
I was voting.
Okay. All right. So that is unanimous affirmative vote. Article 18, Highway Heavy Duty Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 to be placed in the existing highway heavy-duty equipment capital reserve fund previously established. The selectmen and the budget committee recommend this appropriation. I hear a motion to accept Article 18. Mr. Stoller, and seconded by Paul Bankowski. Okay. Did I get it? Did I screw it up? Okay. Any questions, discussion? It's been moved and seconded that we put $75,000 in a existing highway heavy duty equipment fund. If you're willing to do that, please signify by saying aye. Don't want to do that, say no. All right, I'd like to hear a motion on Articles 16, 17, and 18 to
14 and 15.
oh, I thought I did that. Did I do that? Not do that? All right, well, 14 to 18. All right, to restrict reconsideration at this meeting, Lee Freeman and Barry Stringer.
Alright, so that's 4, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18,
Yeah, 14, yeah.
and 4.
And number 40 is that.
Oh, I did?
4, yeah,
Article 4 also?
yes.
Well, I'm just getting really sloppy. I'm sorry?
Leave motion to restrict 4,
Yeah.
14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, who seconded that?
Seconded Jerry
Jerry
Stringer.
Stringer, thank you.
All right, if you're ready to restrict reconsideration, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, Article 19, the sewer department. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 to be placed into the existing sewer department capital reserve fund previously established, with said funds to come from sewer user fees. Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. May I hear a motion to accept Article 19? Scott Holt, who else is back there? I can't see you, I don't. Oh, Jeff. See? Okay. All right. I think you should have smiled when you said it. I would have recognized you. Okay. There's been any questions, comments? Article 19, it's been moved and seconded. We put $75,000 into that capital reserve fund. If you'd like to do so, please say aye. Aye. If you're opposed, say no. And hearing no opposition, that is a unanimous vote. Article 20, Water Department, to see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate sum of $120,000 to be placed in the existing Water Department Capital Reserve Fund previously established with said funds to come from water user fees. Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. I hear a motion to accept Article 20. Over here, Maureen Palomino, seconded by Joe Cheesebro. Any questions, comments? Yes, Nancy?
Yeah, I was just wondering, is this for, like more the water pipes, or is it more for the treatment?
That sounds like a question for Mr. Welch again.
Oh,
Or who else? Who wants to? Okay, well, Scott will take you.
Yeah, this is for future improvements. We're trying to put money away because like north, the line that goes down southern Woodstock needs to be replaced and things like that. So we're just trying to get ahead of it a little bit. You know, everything, you know, it's expensive. That project will be over $1 million.
exactly.
So we're trying to borrow as little as we can and put a little away each year.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Any other questions? Been moved and seconded that we put $120,000 in the Water Department Capital Reserve Fund. If you are in favor of doing that, please signify by saying aye. Aye. If you're opposed, say no. And that's unanimous vote. I'd like to hear a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 19 and Article 20. All right, Mrs. Sabrin and Palomino.
Every syllable.
I've spent all day. All right, if you want to restrict reconsideration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
If opposed, say no. All right, that unanimously affirmative restriction. Article 21, record preservation. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the existing record preservation capital reserve fund previously established. Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this. May I hear a motion to accept Article 21? See, it's just gone. Okay. Seconded by Gil. Okay. All right. Any questions, comment? Yes, Mr. Young.
Those previously accepted on the firehouse.
A lot of the records, were they previously held in the old fire station? I don't, no, they weren't.
No.
When the town moved out of that building, they moved out of.
You sold that.
Yeah.
They're
So
in my
where
vault.
my question is, where do they keep the records now?
They're at the top. They're in my vault.
They're in the vault,
Okay, in your office?
Mhm.
but some of them were very, very old.
Mhm.
You know, we celebrated 250 years, about 10 years ago now, right?
2013.
So 11 years ago. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussions on that other? If you're ready to vote, Article 21, $10,000 for record preservation. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. That's a unanimous affirmative vote. Article 22, Police Department equipment. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $31,200 to be placed in the existing Police Department Equipment Capital Reserve Fund previously established, recommended by the Selectmen and Budget Committee. May I hear a motion to accept Article 22? Mrs. Young, Mr. Freeman. Any discussions? Yes, back in the back, Bill Waterhouse.
$31,200, and Scott said throwing sums of money away for the future.
Okay, I can't hear you, Bill.
Scott mentioned that these capital reserve funds are put away for unanticipated. To see this one out to $200, is that to go into the future, or is that an expense that is now coming up?
Is it now an expense coming up, or are we planning for the future?
Some of it, it's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Because it's, anticipation of two vests, patrol vests that need to be bulletproof, right, ballistic vests that have to be, every couple of years or every year. And plus, we have ammo, pistols, rifles. And so when they request it, they're requesting it at the cost now, but that could fluctuate and go down or it could go up some, and that's why sometimes we have leftover money that covers the increase, other times we don't.
So those that you're trying to protect the cost on, wouldn't go into the budget. You're going to expend it, it doesn't.
It typically, that capital reserve gets pretty close to expended every year.
The departments do a 5-year look. They present us with a 5-year look, and certain years, staggered years, or when certain things are going to be replaced, like radios or, I don't know, vests, or every department's different. And so we appropriate a certain amount to the capital reserve based on estimated, the estimated cost of that year for each item to plan ahead for those purchases.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, it's been moved and seconded. If you'll put $31,200 into the police department equipment capital reserve fund, please, if you're in favor, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, say no. It is unanimous affirmative vote. Article 23, cemetery maintenance fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be placed in the existing cemetery maintenance capital reserve fund previously established, recommended by the Selectmen and the Budget Committee. May I hear a motion to accept Article 23? Mrs. Smelly, Mrs. Ross. Okay. I'm sorry, Dean, I know you've made, I hadn't gone through Mr. Miller. Who seconded over here? Okay, Peggy, right. All right, it's been, any questions, comments? It's been moved and seconded to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to put into the cemetery maintenance capital reserve fund. If you're willing to do that, please signify by saying it. Aye. We need to vote to restrict reconsideration on Articles 21, 22, and 23. At this time, I hear a motion to do that. Tom Saber, Mrs. Wills. Okay. All right, so. Yeah, Jackie Wills. All right. Hearing no discussion, that's pertinent to the question here. Please vote if you will, if you want to restrict the articles 21, 22, and 23, please signify by saying aye. If you're opposed, please say no. Cemetery maintenance. Article 24, we took care of earlier tonight, so we don't need to rehash that. Article 25, any other business to transact any other business that may legally come before this meeting.
Question, Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
How long are these reconsideration motions good for? Should they come back?
It ends at this, it ends tonight. It just means that if you want to leave tonight and somebody wants to bring it back up to talk about it again because you've left the
I just
room.
wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, but it's only for the length of this meeting, which is getting longer every time. All right, so Article 23, there's 25. Any other business, there's not a lot of it, but oh, Article 25. Okay. Article 25, does anybody have anything they'd like to bring up under Article 25?
We need a motion. Right, I need a motion and a second.
All right. Article, all right, Mr. Saburn and Kim Pickering. All right, it's been moved and seconded that we can talk about anything we'd like to talk about.
Oh, you can go first.
All right, okay. Thank you. It's gotten a little out of place here right now. I don't want to get into trouble like I did at the last year and forgetting something. I always like to look and see where we have been and are going. Where we list the births, and surprisingly, we only have 2 births in the town of Woodstock. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weddings in the town of Woodstock. And we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people of our residences have left this existence. And I'd just like to remember them. Some of them are very familiar names, good friends. And look at the list and think about how we related to them. And at the beginning of the book, it's dedicated to 2 of this book this year, dedicated to Roland McClare and Ed Wiggett. If you read, you'll find out that Roland did everything. He loved to be things. He was once a police department. He has a war record, a service record. I think it's remarkable that he and Nancy have been married 62 years. I started to miss his brass cutting machine service. I mean, it's just very hard to find somebody to do that, and Rowan would do that as a retired person. And then the next page is Ed Wiggett, former deputy chief of the Woodstock Fire Department. And he and his wife were very active in the community. Barbie died many years ago now. Mark and Michael don't no longer live here. Right? Mark does. Okay. All right. So just remember that. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I
Yes.
would like to, if that's okay.
All right.
Is that
Okay.
no, just once again, as Ken said, thank you all for coming out and having some really positive conversations tonight. That's really great. Couple of highlights here that we'd like to address is to one, thank Barbara Avery for all of her years of service. As you all know, Barbara's been with us at the town hall for several years, and she's been a supervisor of the checklist. She's been a part of the team at the library. So,
And she's been a town clerk.
And she's been a town clerk. So, we do appreciate that she is staying on slightly for us and helping to assist our next generation of supervisors. So, thank you, Barbara. Also, thank you to Helen Jones. She's helped out with the town office, supervisor of the checklist, as well as the budget committee and trustee of trust funds. And she'll be stepping down this coming year, so thank you. And lastly, Susan Young is stepping down, and we thank her for her service as a trustee of the cemetery for many years. You see her on the road. But again, thank you all for coming out tonight. It was a long night, but it was a really great conversation. So, nice job.
All right, so put it on your calendar. In September, we have a statewide for federal offices primary. And then, of course, in November, we're gonna have some kind of election. Sharon?
Don't forget, March 19th is the school meeting. Please come out and vote. We need all the votes we can get.
Okay, thank you. May I hear your motion? Oh, motion to adjourn. Oh, wait, you have something?
Yes, if I may, in regards to Article 2, anybody has any questions about the listening stuff, you know how to reach me. I'm happy to do it at your home. Put it out there.
All right, I also want to make mention, last year, we had this very long discussion on the Conservation Commission about peregrine falcons and other things. And I was very glad to see in the book, we now have 6 members, up from just 2, who are now, 6 citizens are now serving on the Conservation Commission for the town. And I think that's great, and I thank you all. Thank you all for a lovely evening. Yeah.
We lost a longtime resident that didn't make our vote this year. It was Guy Hoover. And Guy Hoover spent many years dedicating service to us and painting our common and working on this town hall. And he passed away in a different state, so he did make our town report, but he does deserve it.
If you want to vote to adjourn, just leave. All right.
Well done, Mr. Moderator. You got another, you'll make it to 50 years. So well done.